Welcome to a brand new podcast. Iain Maclean is a writer and the author of TJ's War. David Blair is an actor and the narrator of the audiobook TJ's War. David and Iain have been listening to their readers and listeners and have decided to turn TJ's War into a movie. And since the story covers the entirety of World War II, the movie will cost at least $50 million. Will David and Iain succeed in their quest? Follow them in this podcast series. We're going to make a $50 million movie.
Let's talk about Dear Detective, your project you got going on now, Sammy.
Can I ask a question on that?
Sure.
Because you just came off Dear Detective earlier on, and I was thinking, you were just saying that you like to see your film being shown, whatever it is. You like to see it being shown.
Yeah.
So, what's the bigger draw, being shown or making money from what you're doing?
Ooh. Personally, I actually would like more people to see it. I know that might be, oh yeah, he's just saying that. But in all fairness, do you really, like anything else? I mean, you're a writer as well. Do you want your work just to get out to reach as many people as possible? Absolutely. Do you want to, make money while you're doing that? Absolutely. There's nothing wrong with that either. But I would think it'd be more enjoyable for someone just to do it, because I know that some people, can release it online and do certain things, that people have gone viral doing certain things as well. So if people, would like to see your work, my work, anybody's work, I think that's anybody's author, who's an author, a writer. I think that would be, very enjoyable, I mean, that really would just be a cherry on top for anybody to see your work, and if they appreciate it, that's even better.
Well, let me ask you this: in that, on that note, would you prefer to have a cult classic or something that had wide appeal? I have another podcast called Zen Sandwich. Just a shameless plug there, and
Why not?
So why not? Thanks, Iain. And it is, when I set out, I was aiming for wide appeal, but it is turned into a kind of cult classic. Like, I have people, strangers I don't even know. It's not just my friends that are like contributing $10 on Patreon. I have people I had never met. I don't even know how they found Zen Sandwich, but they will write me emails and they're like, I love this podcast. I love it. I've listened to every episode or whatever, but I don't have, my numbers are okay, but they're not, I'm not competing with Joe Rogan just yet. Yeah. And so it has kind of a, and I find satisfaction in it, although my original aim was wide appeal. Sure. So would you rather have wide appeal or people who just love what you do?
To answer your question, I would just have people love what I do. Here's what I've told people too. I'm not even a one-hit wonder per se, but I guarantee you that if any of us that are in the business was a one-hit wonder, we would take that and run with it, because at least somebody's remembering. And if you have that one-hit wonder, whatever it is, a song, a movie, a book, whatever it is, if that person or that audience, like you said, has some kind of cult following, I guarantee you they're going to look at other stuff that you've done as well. And if they appreciate that, then that's, again, that's even, kudos to you, because I don't mind necessarily being, something that's looked upon as a cult following. I think I think that'd be very honorable, to tell you the truth.
Yeah,
I agree.
Well, maybe Dear Detective will get that cult following and explode. Tell us a little bit about what that story is about.
Okay, without spoiling
and then
too
I've
much.
got questions.
Okay, without spoiling too much, I will say most stories have been done before. This one in particular is about Doberman. Is unfortunately, what I say is a criminal, but he is his criminal from the past. He not necessarily. I'll let the audience decide whether he committed this particular crime before. So he's being charged with a crime that he may or may not have committed. And there is a rookie detective who is interrogating him, who happens to be female. And I wanted to put the female element in there too, because her superiors are actually two gentlemen. If I say that lightly, two gentlemen who they want to see if she's gonna. They want to cut her teeth, meaning they want to see if she's really up to par for doing this. Interrogating this witness to see. So she gets the task of trying to go through his story, and she, along with the audience, will have to decide, is he really guilty? And what I wanted to perceive was, just because he was a quote bad guy, there's nothing wrong. People make mistakes, whatever. Um, say he has a past, a criminal past, not necessarily murder and stuff like that, but just in this particular case, it was drugs and possibly some prostitution, things like that. But just because he
What?
is a bad
He
guy,
was
does that
he was
mean that
doing
he
prostitution?
He wasn't he wasn't a gigolo, I'm sure. He
Yeah,
was
no,
like,
he's a pimp.
A rent boy?
Yeah, what
right.
we would say a pimp. But just because somebody is bad, so it's more of a conscience. Just because somebody's bad, say for instance somebody has an alcohol problem or drug problem that one of our friends, relatives, whatever, and they get accused of a crime. Does that necessarily mean that that the crime they got accused of right now is the crime they really committed? And so it's really up to this detective, who happens to be female. Is she going to do the right thing because she thinks, she can, like anything else, she can, she can possibly go one way or she can go another way. And so that's why I wanted to have that on there. At the very end, that's why the name of the film is called Dear Detective, is because she actually does get a letter from an anonymous source, and it's called Dear Detective. And it's a little poem that I wrote, but it's basically, when it comes out, I'll let people decide, because it's one of those cliffhangers, because it's like, it's really up to her. Did she give the evidence that she possibly could have given, or did she withhold that because, quote, he's a bad guy? So that's why I wanted to, that's where the whole Dear Detective. So you're like, well, that's an odd title. That's
That
where it
sounds
comes
good.
from. So.
Yeah. When is it expected to come out?
Oh, good question. I'm in pre-production now. I hope to be starting filming soon, is all I can say. Possibly in October, early October. So definitely it'll be, when it does get released, it'll be 2025.
The money side of this, because you can't make this thing for nothing, right?
Correct.
So, and it's not some of your money will be in it, possibly, but how are you pulling all that together?
Actually, when you say some, it's actually all of my money, since I am independent. I have funds to do that, and here's what that means: is I've been blessed to have a beautiful wife that actually lets me fulfill my dreams. Actually, and so I've worked quite a long time in the corporate world as well. So what I've accumulated lots of money, just through the corporate world. So I've saved up my money, and now that one of my biggest influences, if you know this director named Robert Rodriguez, he did Spy
Yes.
Kids movies, he did
Yeah.
Desperado, Dust Till Dawn, etc. And when his best friend actually is Quentin Tarantino, and so when I was actually just starting off school, college actually, was when he won in the Sundance Film Festival for El Mariachi. He totally changed my whole thinking of film. Like you were saying, wait, well, how do you get the money? It is expensive. I'm not going to say it is expensive, but is it expensive as buying, whatever, like you said, the name of the thing, let's make a $50 million movie. I don't have $50 million. So what I would do is, it's called El Mariachi way of filmmaking, is do what you can, film what you can. You can actually get away with a lot of stuff, certain lighting, mics, cameras, dolly shots he would use with, with him being the director of photography, somebody push him in a wheelchair. You'd be surprised if sometimes when you really want it bad enough, you'd be surprised of what you can come up with. Obviously you do need some money, but is it expensive? Absolutely. Am I willing to throw tons and tons of money away? No. So you do have to actually watch what you're doing, and obviously every penny counts. But if you can accumulate that, and if you can say, you know what, I think I can do it. You got to budget yourself. You got to keep things in mind, and you can do it.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want to mention this one thing, because it put a light bulb above my head. I had heard something or read something not too long ago that the current like iPhone, if you have like the iPhone that you have now, you have more technology than Lucas had when he made the first Star Wars. Like you
Absolutely.
could have made Star Wars on the iPhone that you've got now.
You could have
Anyway,
gone to
Yeah.
the moon on an iPhone.
well,
Yeah. And what's
Um,
funny is I talked to a lot of filmmakers, and we've seen that video before with the with the commercial with the, I think it's the iPhone 14, where they this was actually filmed on an iPhone 14 or whatever it is, and it looks phenomenal, it looks great. But the average person will see that, yeah, no, they really shot it, and that's what they said. They shot it. But there's so much more when it comes to editing,
right.
sound,
Of
everything else
course.
that runs up to it. I guarantee you could do that, but the cost will be the editing, the sound,
Yeah.
whatever, the special effects, etc. That's what's going to cost.
okay, so congratulations on having all that money to start with, but you don't want to lose the money. So what are you doing in terms of guaranteeing that you're going to get this money back as you're spending it?
Great question. Number one is, it's almost like it's gonna be an odd answer, but it's almost like going to Vegas or any kind of casino, whatever. You got to, in all fairness, you have to anticipate that you're going to be losing some money. You're not going to necessarily get it back. You're looking for the opportunity for other people to see it. Executives from Hollywood. I enter it in film festivals, and I've been approached by different people. I've actually been close to signing different contracts, but unfortunately, like you said, sometimes the money isn't necessarily. It's like, I mean, they want to change so much, or they want to use their writers or whatever, and so you got to kind of go in the mindset of, okay, I anticipate to lose certain amount of money, and again, I'm not going to say it's like millions of dollars. I don't have that, but if you go in saying, I'm probably going to lose some money, or I'm not going to make my money back. But if this goes, viral, if this goes to, on certain platforms to where you can actually start gaining that money back, and if it can go to the next project to fund your next project, I think that's pretty much what any independent filmmaker would want.
So is it mainly film festivals? Is it a circuit?
Yes, they're kind of odd. It depends. People have said the same thing. Can I upload it to any of the streaming services? I forgot the new one that everybody's going to. Wow, I forgot. They're tell you the truth. Some of them, I don't want to necessarily say that they're bad movies. I forgot the Tubi. I think that's it, Tubi, where they're some of them are very amateurish. They're whatever. And, forgive me because I know that's somebody's dream. But still, whenever you're doing certain things like that, it all depends. The film festivals are kind of odd because sometimes they don't want you to upload it on any kind of platform because, quote, they want to discover you whenever you do make it big. So some film festivals, if you've uploaded it into, say, YouTube or any kind of streaming services, you're automatically disqualified. So it's almost like, what do you really want to do? Do you want to enter it in film festivals? Because there's a lot of actually executives and producers that go to these film festivals across the country looking for the next big idea. My wife actually says the same thing. You should write something that's going to be like the next big thing. Well, I mean, what is the next big thing? I mean, they made a dozen, or half a dozen Harry Potter movies. They made, going on probably like 15, 16, Marvel movies. So, I mean, what is the next thing? I mean, they've already done enough zombie movies and, stuff like that. So is it a rom-com? Is it is it a horror film? What is the next big thing? So
I'm in the Scorsese camp that those Marvel things aren't even movies. That those are that's just something else. That's a different genre. It's a
yeah,
different thing. It's just, I don't know. I can't get into it, but I
uh,
digress.
It's not
yeah,
for
and
you, for the 14 to 25-year-olds that go to cinema every week and do that because they want their girlfriends and boyfriends to go to the back row. That's why they go to the cinema.
Yeah, I
just
kind of
can't do that.
kind of like that too. It's not that I don't enjoy them because some of them are obviously enjoyable. It's just after so many,
It's the
I
same
mean, after the
thing.
fourth or fifth one, yeah,
Yep.
I'm kind of like, okay, I've been there, done that. Like you
Yeah.
said, when it comes to the characters, like how many times can Spider-Man go through the same things all the time? So that's I kind of feel the same way.
Can people find Roses Are Red? Is that out there where we can? track it down,
I can
or
actually, yeah, it's not per se, but I have plenty of copies, and I can actually, do have plenty of DVDs when they were big, and thumb drives that have that as well. But I actually do need to upload that, and the reason I haven't per se necessarily uploaded that because I'm waiting for more work. I've done some short films, and I want to accumulate. Maybe after. Dear Detective, I think I actually will start, having to upload that to different platforms. That way, people can see.
Yep. My one of my favorite books is Martin Eden by Jack London.
Jack London,
Anybody
yeah.
know it?
Oh, yeah.
And uh, it was written about, well, over 100 years ago, and it's almost autobiographical about Jack London. But Martin Eden comes in from the sea. He decides to try and write, so he has to learn how to read and write, first of all. And he just wants to describe his experiences of being at sea. And he writes and writes and writes, and nobody's taking his work. And so most of the story is about how his marriage is failing, and he's losing all his money, and he's living on the streets because he's writing all these things and nobody's buying. And then suddenly somebody picks up one of his stories and really likes it, and all of a sudden it takes off. And so he's suddenly becoming very famous, and he can't pay for anything at that point. Everyone's whining and dining him. He cannot literally pay for a dinner or anything else. And they're going through his back catalogue and publishing it like mad. And he's saying his story is really, where were you when I was starving?
Yeah.
I know the
And
feeling.
it made him more and more depressed. And so at the end of it's an old book, so I hate to spoil a story, but he commits suicide at the end of the book. And sure enough, Jack London did the same thing a couple of years after he finished writing the book, because he was so depressed by the lack of recognition when he was starving.
Can't believe you ruined it. You know that I've never seen. When I say that when I tell you the movie that I have never seen, you're just gonna like roll your eyes and say, I can't believe you've never seen that. But I can't, because someone spoiled it, just like what happened just now. I've never seen The Sixth Sense, the Bruce Willis movie, because I already know he's dead. And so it's like,
Wait,
I
what?
can't watch it. Somebody ruined that for me. And I'm like, well, I guess you saved me 2 hours, because I'm not watching it now. Anyway.
Excellent script, by the way.
We apologize to anyone who's not seen The Sixth Sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Or read
that,
Martin
or
years
read
late.
the Jack
Yeah, you're
London
right.
book.
25 years
I'm
late.
I'm sure someone's got that Jack London book checked out of the library and like, well, forget this.
Can I just go back to? I want to dig in a little bit further on the film festival circuit, if I may, Sammy.
Yeah.
When you're selling to executives who've gone along to a film festival, what are you selling? Are you selling a finished film, or are you selling a script? What?
Yeah, good question. Depends. There are things called spec scripts, which means you've written a script and you're looking for someone to produce it because you don't have the funds to produce it. Say it's a big action movie. I can't afford explosives because I don't want to get arrested by any local cops, because they might not think what I'm doing. But yeah, it depends on what you want. Matter of fact, is it like, for instance, El Mariachi? I'm going to keep referencing El Mariachi, Robert Rodriguez, who got discovered and won the Sundance Film Festival because of that. Is same thing that he. Obviously, the executives from Hollywood saw it. Columbia Pictures, if I'm not mistaken, bought it, and then they repackaged it and they sold it as Desperado, and they put Salma Hayek and Antonio Banderas in it. So it was the same story. It was the same movie. It's just they repackaged it and then made it quote Hollywood. And so, if no one's ever seen that, it's literally the same movie as El Mariachi, which is, about a singer, that goes to a small town and he just wants to sing. And, his guitar case has a bunch of guns and it's a big explosion. So to answer your question, just depends on the project. I actually wrote another script that my wife absolutely loves. It's called Shaken Not Stirred, and it has nothing to do with Ian Fleming with James Bond. It takes place in a psychiatric ward. And that is something that I'm waiting. I don't want to produce on my own. I don't want to make this. And my wife's like, why? Because I actually want bigger names, bigger actors, actresses. Because I think that this is worthy of not being independent. I think it's actually worthy of some big name actors to play it. And if someone was to ask me, like for instance, this one, it's called Shaken Not Stirred, not Dear Detective, but Shaken Not Stirred. What makes this one better than the others? I would say that the story is really, I love all my stories, but I think this one's story is more, it's worthy of some big name actors and actresses to give out the best performances because it actually deals with, 5 different patients in a psychiatric ward, and it's not a horror film. People think it's a horror film, but it's not. It's actually a drama. And what I love to read. I love historical stuff, but it's actually different. The 5 different patients that are concentrating on in a psychiatric ward deals with depression, PTSD, bipolar, different mental illness. And my whole message with that is people struggle all the time with mental illness. I want to break down the stereotype of, oh, it's a bad thing and we shouldn't talk about it. So at the end of the movie, that's what I really want is for the audience to see that and go, hey, I relate to that person. I relate to that person. It's almost like when I pitched it, I actually did pitch it to an executive, with a company I can't say, but she does work in Hollywood, and she said, "I absolutely love it. I love it, but I only do comedies." And I'm like, "Oh, gee, thanks." But when I pitched it, I said, "She's first thing because you only have 5 minutes. A lot of times you get a meeting. If you've ever been in that, some people who understand what I'm talking about, you got 5 minutes to woo them, and that's about
Yeah.
it." But I told them it's One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Hopefully, people have seen that. One
Yeah.
Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest meets The Breakfast Club, and
All right.
I got quiet.
That's awesome.
And
I'm
I've been
intrigued already.
yeah, exactly. I've been coached because that's what she was saying. She would do your thing, pitch it. And I said, okay. The name of my movie is Shaken Not Stirred, and it is One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest meets The Breakfast Club. And I stopped for about 5 seconds, and she actually smoked a cigar. You wouldn't think a female would, and I don't want to be sexist, but she's smoking a cigar. She goes, tell me more.
Yeah.
Instantly it grabbed, just like it grabbed y'all. And then I explained it's about a different thing, and I don't want to give too much away, but it's actually I use the 5 senses for each of the characters. But well, that's between us
Yeah.
and the people that listen to this podcast, because people might relate at the very end of the movie by saying, "Oh wow, I didn't even know this particular character has this disorder. This particular character is this," and so it's different senses, like smell and sound and hearing, etc. So,
That's
my
very
wife.
cool. So
That's my wife's favorite one, and
tell me about this pitch. How did this come about? Because that's something we want to do.
yeah, I belong to the Dallas Screenwriters Guild, and they actually do fly in people, executives, just to hear and pitch, your stories. Some of the people that I've worked with actually do have their shows. Some of this one particular female I know, her stuff has been shown on the Lifetime Network or the Hallmark Channel. Can't remember, but there's definitely it just depends on what they are looking for. Again, the lady that I pitched mine to, she says she only does comedy, and it was funny as I was like, oh, okay, yeah, she only does comedy. Who is she? And then I found out she was one of the producers for a Jim Carrey movie. I don't want to say, but a Jim Carrey movie. So I said, okay, I think she does know what she's talking about. So it really just depends. I'm glad I pitched it. This particular producer was looking for a comedy, but I didn't know that. But at the same time, she was still intrigued, and she did turn me on to somebody else who might be interested. It never went anywhere, but at least I had the opportunity.
Sammy, are you familiar with The Blacklist? I don't mean I think that was a TV show. I don't mean the TV show. There's an actual The Blacklist.
Are you talking about
in film, like screenplays that are it's this list that's been produced since I think 2005, something like that, and they put it out every year, and it's a list of, I don't know how you get on it, but it's a list of scripts that are popular in Hollywood, like that producers have looked at it, they like it, but they have not yet been produced. And I mean, films like Argo, American Hustle, Juno, The King's Speech, Slumdog Millionaire, Spotlight, The Revenant, those all came off the blacklist. They were scripts that were out there that nobody had picked up. It makes it onto the blacklist, and then producers go and look at that blacklist every year when they put it out and pick up the ones. So anyway, I don't know. that maybe for all of us that there's another avenue, another back
Yeah.
door.
Yeah,
To
absolutely.
if you can get on, we'll have to do some more research. Just like Google the Blacklist
Oh yeah.
movie database or something like that, or screenplay database.
So
There
let
you
me
go.
get try one more knock with my hammer.
Sure.
We have written this story and created this fellowship of people like Lord of the Rings that are aiming to get this thing turned into a movie.
And I'm
How do
Sean
we get to
Austin.
where we?
What's his character again?
Which one?
Sam.
Sean Austin.
Yeah,
Samwise
yes,
Ganji or whatever.
Samwise Ganji. That's you.
Yeah. Go on,
We'll have,
please.
we'll have to work out who Sammy is in a minute. But anyway, we are at this point where the story is out there and getting more well known all the time, but it's a story, it's a book. So how would you go from there to getting to a pitch?
Yeah. So if you're talking about strictly from pitching from a book to a to a movie, number one is like you said, anything else they if you can't give them the book, you can't give them the novel, then obviously what you want to do is for 5 minutes. What you want to do is hit the main points. What's about like what I did. People like to relate certain things. Like instantly, I said, "One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest" meets The Breakfast Club. If I had to say, give me one line about your, don't do it now, but think about what would make somebody want to spend $50 million on your movie. You have to grab them. Hey, this is this and this, or whatever I said. Breakfast Club meets One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest meets The Breakfast Club. Instantly, you're like, okay,
But
those are two classics.
if it was
I know.
you, would you have produced the script first, or would you just go with the story?
It depends. I mean, if you don't have a script, obviously, but if you have just a story, obviously, Hollywood has plenty of script writers that will want to write it, and they get paid strictly for that. So it depends because there's been tons of people that wrote scripts, big time movie directors or big time screenwriters that Hollywood has said, no, this isn't what we're looking for. We're going to hire this other. I mean, they still get paid, but obviously, it's like, yeah, I don't want to get paid. I want my stuff to get produced. So if someone said, "Hey, we're going to pay you X amount of dollars, Sammy, to write this screenplay," and there it is, I spent 3 months writing it or whatever it is, thinking it's the best thing since Titanic, and then all of a sudden someone says, "Yeah, that's not the direction we want. We're going to hire somebody else." That does happen. So, but to answer your question, it would be. What do you strictly as the writer of this novel, what are you looking for? What specifically, you got to flush out certain things within that 5 minutes whenever you're pitching is what are you trying to relate? Is it about your father? Is it about love? Is it about, again, love for the country? Is it about, shell shock, PTSD? What message are you trying to relate? And that's what I think that you need to figure out.
Once we've got the pitch ready, which I think we're pretty close to doing, if we don't need a script, if we've got the pitch ready, how do we get into the room to make that pitch? Who do we need to contact?
That's the hard part. You got to know people who know people. Obviously, me, at least doing that, possibly make some phone calls to say, hey, just give this person 5 minutes. That would always obviously be good. But they got to be willing. That's the deal is number one, they have to be willing to hear you, which again, all they care about is money. That's nothing wrong with that at all. Because that's their business. But are you, again, is it worthy? Is your stuff worthy of making money? And that's what they look for.
Yeah, and I think the pitch has to be razor sharp good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got to really hook them because
Absolutely.
they, like you said, they are thinking about the dollar signs. They're like,
Absolutely.
I'm investing in this as a business, so
Yep.
we've got to
It's
work.
not-
We got to work
they
on
always
that
say-
pitch.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. It's
we're
nothing
doing.
personal. It's all business. That's
We're doing
my
it.
favorite. My favorite movie of all time is The Godfather 1 and 2. Nothing personal, just business. So again, you got to look at it as like, hey, that could be your friends. They can be holding your hand for 3 months while it's pre-production, whatever. And at the very end, they're like, hey, we decided to go with something else. We're all this for nothing now because I'm going to go jump on this film. You're just like, wait, what? Hey, that happens. It's all about money.
There you go. Well, I think we had to leave it there, Ian, unless you got something else.
No,
Just lingering.
my
Okay.
cogs are whirring in the back here. I think we're going to
Yeah.
be talking a lot, Sammy. The three of us, and maybe more than the three of us.
All right.
But, there's a lot of good stuff came out of that call, and we didn't even really touch on your grandfather in Guatemala
Guadalcanal.
Canal,
Yeah.
or any of this stuff, any of the history. But we had a great call setting up this meeting in the first place, Mark.
Absolutely.
And, this man is just a fountain of knowledge. So
I can tell. Well,
yeah, it's good.
Well, folks that are watching and listening, thanks for joining us on this episode. We're going to make a $50 million movie. Huge thanks to Sammy Estrada Jr. for sharing his incredible insights and experiences in the world of filmmaking. We hope you found today's discussion as inspiring and informative as we did. Also, folks, if you're watching still and listening and you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe, leave a review, share it with fellow film enthusiasts. That's it. Till next time, let's keep dreaming big, fellas. Let's make a movie.
Excellent. Bye, everyone.
To find out more about the book, visit tjswar.com, and to buy it, click on the Amazon link below. To accompany us on our journey, please subscribe to this podcast because we're going to make a $50 million movie.